Receiving Noor Quran Studies, led by our teacher and guide, Dr. Yamina Buganaya. I also wanted to just remind folks that this is our last weekly halaqah of the year. We will, inshallah, be just taking a 2-week break, and we'll resume on Wednesday, January 11th, 2023, inshallah. And also, we hope to see some of you, inshallah, at the Receiving Noor retreat. It begins on Friday and concludes on Monday. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Yamina.
Thank you, Zara. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Inshallah, everyone is doing well. So this is the end of the 5th remark. There were 5 remarks in this 2nd chapter of the 23rd word, which were reflections on the passage from Surah 95, ayah 4 and 6. The English interpretation is, indeed, we have created man on the most excellent of patterns. Then we set him down to the lowest of the low, except those who believe and do good deeds. And so far, we've seen how the author has been reasoning and arguing how it makes sense, and how in the fitrah, in the creation, in the way we are created and the world is created, this makes perfect sense. And so it was an opportunity to each time look at this reality, this truth from a different perspective, and to confirm how true it is. And in this 5th remark, it looks to what it means to be a believer, what it means to believe and do good deeds. And it's actually quite concise. The 5th remark from the beginning. So we started last week, but I think it would be good to reread from the beginning, because it's really summarizing what it means to believe, to be a believer, a worshipper of God. Believe and do good deeds, it means believe and act accordingly, live accordingly. There are layers and layers of the good deeds here, from what we can't see to what we see outwardly. So maybe we can start from the beginning, inshallah.
The 5th remark. Man has been sent to this world as an official and guest, and has been given abilities of great significance. And he has been entrusted with important duties in accordance with those abilities. In order to employ man in fulfilling those aims and duties, powerful encouragement and severe threats have been made. We shall here summarize the fundamentals of worship and of man's duties, which we have explained at length elsewhere, so that the mystery of the most excellent of patterns may be understood. On coming into the universe, man has 2 aspects of worship and being a slave of God's. One is worship and contemplation in the absence of the object of worship. The other is worship and supplication in his presence and addressing him directly. Shall I continue?
Yes, inshallah.
Okay. First aspect. It is to affirm submissively the sovereignty of dominicality apparent in the universe, and to observe its perfections and virtues in wonder. Then it is to proclaim and herald the unique arts which consist of the inscriptions of the sacred divine names, and to display them to others. Then it is to weigh on the scales of perception the jewels of the dominical names, which are all like hidden treasures. It is to appreciatively affirm their value with a discerning heart. Then it is to study and ponder over in wonder the pages of beings and leaves of the earth and sky, which are like missives of the pen of power. Then through beholding admiringly the adornment and subtle arts in being, it is to feel love for knowledge of their all beauteous creator, and to yearn to ascend to the presence of their all perfect maker and to receive his favors. Second aspect. This is the station of presence and address wherein man passes from the work to the producer of the work, and he sees that an all beauteous maker wants to make himself known and acquainted through the miracles of his art, and he responds with knowledge and belief. Then he sees that an all compassionate sustainer wants to make himself loved through the fine fruits of his mercy. So confining his love and worship to him, he makes himself love him. Then he sees that an all generous bestower is nurturing him with the delights of bounties, material and immaterial. And in return, he offers him thanks and praise with his actions, conduct, words, and as far as he can with all his senses and faculties. Then he sees that an all beauteous and glorious one is announcing his tremendousness and perfections and glory and beauty in the mirrors of these beings, and is drawing attentive gazes to them. So in response, he declares, God is most great, glory be to God. And in humility, he prostrates in love and wonder. Then he sees that a possessor of absolute riches is displaying his boundless wealth and treasuries amid an absolute munificence. And so in response, exalting and praising him, he entreats and asks for them, expressing his utter need. Then he sees that the all-glorious creator has made the face of the earth like an exhibition and displayed on it all his antique works of art. So in response, he exclaims in appreciation, what wonders God has willed, and in admiration, what blessings God has bestowed, and in wonder, glory be to God, and in astonishment, God is great. That he sees that in his palace of the universe of a single one of unity has struck seals of unity on all beings with his inimitable signature and with his stamps, signets and ciphers particular to him, that he inscribes the signs of his unity, and planting the banner of unity in every region of the world, he proclaims his dominicality, and he responds with assent, belief, submission, worship, and affirmation of his unity. Thus, through worship and contemplation of this kind, he becomes a true man. He shows that he is on the most excellent of patterns. Through the auspiciousness of belief, he becomes a reliable vicegerent of the earth, worthy of bearing the trust. O heedless man created on the most excellent of pattern, who, through the misuse of his will, is descending to the lowest of the low. Listen to me. In the heedlessness induced by the intoxication of youth, I, like you, thought the world was fine and lovely. Then the moment I awoke in the morning of old age, I saw how ugly was the world's face that was not turned towards the hereafter, which I had previously imagined to be beautiful. To see this and how beautiful was its true face, which looks to the hereafter, you may refer to the two signboards in the first station of the 17th word and see for yourself. The first signboard depicts the reality of the world of the people of neglect, which long ago, like the people of misguidance, I saw through the veil of heedlessness, but without being intoxicated. The second signboard indicates the reality of the worlds of the people of guidance. I left it in the form it was written long ago. It resembles poetry, but it is not truly that. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all knowing, all wise. O my sustainer, expand for me my breast, make easy for me my affair, and loosen the knot of my tongue, that they may understand my words. O God, grant blessings to the subtle, unitary Mohammedan essence, the sun in the skies of mystery and manifestation of lights, the center of the orbit of glory and the pole of the sphere of beauty. O God, by his mystery in your presence and by his journeying to you, succor my fear and right my stumbling and dispel my grief and my greed, and be mine, and take me from myself to yourself, and bestow on me annihilation from myself, and do not make me captivated by my soul and veiled by my senses, and reveal to me all hidden secrets. O ever living and self-subsistent one, O ever living and self-subsistent one, O ever living and self-subsistent one, and grant mercy to me and to my companions and to the people of belief in the Quran. Amen. O most merciful of the merciful and most generous of the generous. And the close of their prayer will be, all praise be to God, the sustainer of all the worlds.
Thank you. So we had stopped at, then he sees that in his palace. You see how he's giving us a detailed description of what it means to live with Iman, with belief, and affirm this Iman and live and the Shahada. Shahada is not only words that we say, the words express what we experience, what we live. It's a reality that we are observing, the reality that there is only one God, that everything is coming from one, that everything is under his control alone. And the other side of this means that we are totally under his control. In the beginning, it means we observe that the whole creation is witnessing to this reality. They are all testifying that they have no control. They are not creating anything. Although, when we are not actively pursuing this path, seeking this path, it seems to us that things are happening on their own. And we have this illusion that there are relationships that are totally horizontal, totally happening between the things themselves. And we don't see how they are all pointing beyond themselves to a source of life, a source of power, a source of mercy, a source of providing, etc., all the names of God. When we are not actively following this path, we are not remaining neutral. This was explained from the very beginning, the first remark, which is what the ayahs, these two ayats are telling us. If we are not actively believing and doing good deeds, then you will be sent to the lowest of the low, even though you are created in the most excellent of patterns, because you are not using we are not using our abilities, our potential to fulfill the purpose of its creation, but we're just wasting it. However lofty we think our purposes and goals are, if they do not go beyond this transient, fleeting world, then nothing is lofty about them, because they are not lasting. They end in the now. Anything else, we have all these dreams about the future. If this future is not connected to akhirah, to eternity here and now, that future doesn't exist. It's an illusion. There is no future that is not connected to the source. So it's all about, once we affirm that everything is pointing to one source, we have to come back to the self. And the self has to internalize this reality and accept it and live it and experience it and assent to it and affirm it and live with it. Otherwise, our biggest obstacle between us and God is ourselves, our false selves, our self that claims the trust to itself and forgets that it's a trust, and we think that's me and that's mine. As long as we don't wake up from this illusion, then we cannot seek the path of most excellent of patterns. We will be going to the lowest of the low at different speeds. That's why it is so important to pause and reflect on the consequences or the true meaning of this guidance. So we are told then he sees that in his palace, in God's palace of the universe, so the universe is so orderly that it's like a palace. A single one of unity has struck seals of unity on all beings. If you look carefully in the way we are taught in the Quran, if we learn how to read the ayats, the signs, and we see how everything is interconnected, clearly there are signs and signatures everywhere. There is a signature, this is God's and nothing else. The creator of this thing can only be the maker of everything. This is written everywhere, so there is no way that what we call causes, actually they are not causes, they are all just creation that are related to each other in an orderly manner. So when we start seeing and witnessing those inscriptions, the inimitable signature of God on every single thing, then there is no way to attribute anything in our life to things themselves, to the conditions, to the laws. The law is only the order of how things are going on, but we have this illusion that there is something called law that is making things. There is no such a thing. There are only things happening in a certain order. And when we talk about law, it's only a tool, a language. It doesn't mean that the law is making anything. There is no such a thing. And of course, it also means that I am not creating anything. I am made to speak. I am made to understand. I am made to know. I have no control over any of this, anything happening in my life. I have no control over my life. I have no control over my memories. I can lose them anytime, over my seeing, over my understanding. I can only seek help. And unless we are aware of this, and then we start claiming ownership, and that becomes like a black spot. And we can't see the divine mercy and the divine activity of Rububiyyah in the world and within ourselves. And so we start, instead of being busy glorifying God and being thankful and grateful, however much we glorify and we are grateful, it's not enough. We start focusing on what we think should be, or we are boasting about what we think is good in our life. Astaghfirullah. So he says, these seals of unity have been struck on all being with his inimitable signature. and with his stamps, signets, and ciphers particular to him. And he, God, the Creator, inscribes the signs, the ayat of his unity. He inscribes, that's how we know they are signs. And planting the banner of unity in every region of the world, he proclaims his rububiyyah. Wherever we look, there is the countenance of God. There is the face of God. There are the beautiful names of God. There is the activity of rububiyyah. So instead of seeing natural events, nature is doing this and doing that, we see rububiyyah. Instead of seeing it's raining, whatever it means, it's raining, we see that rububiyyah. My Rabb is sending water. Water is coming down by his command. It can only come by his command. Nothing else can do it. So he proclaims his rububiyyah and he responds. So the believer responds with assent, tasdiq. Tasdiq is saddaqa, is to affirm, yes, this is the truth. This is so. With belief, with iman, with submission, and affirmation of his divine, of his unity is tawheed. And in between there is something missing, and shahada and worship. And worship here is ubudiyyah. Ibadah is a particular act of worship, but ubudiyyah is our being, our response to rububiyyah. We realize and accept and affirm and witness that we are the beneficiary of rububiyyah. We are abd. We are created as abd. Whether I acknowledge it or not, this is the reality. That's ubudiyyah. Thus, through worship, through ibadah, whatever we start acting in his name becomes ibadah. I'm not acting in my name anymore. And but we have to first surrender to the divine will. And we can only surrender to the divine will to the extent that I understand that whatever good is coming through me is from him and not from me. And contemplation through ibadah, through worship and contemplation of this kind, he becomes a true human being. This is a true human being. It means this is what we were created for, to live in this way, not for anything else. Anything else is there, is a means. It is not the goal. It's not the true purpose. He shows that he is on the most excellent of patterns. Through the auspiciousness of iman, of belief, he becomes a reliable Khalifa. This is a word used in the Quran, a vice-regent, a representative of God on earth, worthy of bearing the trust. Otherwise, we are not bearing the trust because we're not even aware that it is a trust. We're claiming it for ourselves. Astaghfirullah. Most of the time, this is what we do. So it's not something that we do consciously. We decide this is what I'm going to do. Even when we read and we know it makes sense, okay, it's not mine, I don't have control, we go back and that's how it feels. So the whole thing is about changing that feeling. So my feeling and the reality align. Otherwise, I claim something and I do something else, as we are told in the Quran, you know. They say something with their mouth, but they say they believe with their mouth, but their hearts do not believe. So what's in the heart is what counts. That's our reality. At the end, what we say, it depends if we are going to follow up on it or not. It could be a start. And here it's a vicegerent as a representative, because you are not God. We are not little gods. We are only Khalifa. It means whatever is on us is only, we are aware that it is a trust. And so I cannot use it the way I choose because it's not mine. So it becomes easier to surrender to divine will. O heedless man, created on the most excellent of patterns, who through the misuse of his will is descending to the lowest of the low. When we are not pursuing consciously the path of most excellent of patterns, by default, we're not consciously choosing, but we find ourselves through the misuse of our will, because we are not using our will as it's supposed to be used, we find ourselves descending to the lowest of the low. May Allah protect us. Listen to me. In the heedlessness induced by the intoxication of youth, I, like you, thought the world was fine and lovely. Then the moment I awoke in the morning of old age, I saw how ugly was the world's face that was not turned towards the hereafter. So at least theoretically, we can understand that nothing can be truly beautiful if it is not turned towards eternity, towards the hereafter. Because actually it's the other way around. However beautiful it is, the more beautiful it is, the uglier it becomes if there is no lastingness. It's like if we are given, let's say, something, a gift, and then someone says, oh, sorry, it was not for you. They take it away. You say, okay. I mean, let's say it was a book or something you like, a laptop or something, and you needed it. You are a little bit disappointed, but it's okay. But if it was like a car that you really like, or a house, the bigger, the more valuable it is. When they take it back, it becomes very painful. And so it is with the worldly life. The more beautiful we imagine it, when we wake up to the reality of transience, then everything falls apart. And why don't we wake up to this reality? Because we don't want to face it. It's not because it's not there. And sometimes we wait until there is a big crisis or a shock, someone close to us passes away or something, and then, or we fall into serious illness or something, and then it's like something is shaking us. But we don't have to wait for that to happen. And we don't have to wait until we are old and we can't move. It'll be a little bit too late. We won't have the opportunities that we have. The younger, the better, to start on the path. To see this and how beautiful was its true face, which looks to the hereafter. Anything that looks to the hereafter becomes meaningful, purposeful, and more beautiful. You may refer to the two signboards. So these signboards, we can, I'll share the link here, and we can, chat. So in the first signboard, in the original place, it says the first table. It goes like this. This signboard or this table, it's lawha, so you can say, It's more like a tableau depicting the table depicting the reality of the world of the heedless. Don't call me to the world. I came and so it was transitory. Heedlessness was a veil. I saw the light of truth was concealed. All the beings in existence I saw were ephemeral, harmful. If you say being, I dressed in it. Alas, it was not being. I suffered much. If you say life, I tasted it. I saw it. It was torment upon torment. The mind became pure torture. I saw permanence to be tribulation. Life became pure whim. I saw attainment to be pure loss. Deeds became pure hypocrisy. I saw hopes to be pure pain. Union became parting itself. I saw the cure to be the ill. These lights became darkness. I saw these friends to be orphans. These voices became announcements of death. I saw the living to be dead. Knowledge was transformed into fancy. I saw in science 1,000 ailments. Pleasure became pure pain. I saw existence to be compounded non-existence. If you say the beloved, I found him. Alas, on separation, I suffered grievous pain. Now the second signboards. These signboards indicating the reality of the world, of the people of guidance, those with easy hearts. Then the heedlessness passed, and I saw the light of truth clearly. Existence became the proof of God. See, life is the mirror of God. The mind became the key to treasuries. See, transience is the door to permanence. The spark of perfection died, but behold the sun of beauty. Separation became true union. See, pain is pure pleasure. Life became pure action. See, eternity is pure life. Darkness became the container of light. See, there is true life in death. All things became familiar. See, all sounds are the mentioning of God. All the atoms in existence, see, each recites God's praises and extols him. I found poverty to be a treasury of wealth. See, in impotence is perfect strength. If you find God, see, all things are yours. If you are the slave of the owner of all things, see, his property is yours. If you are arrogant and claim to own yourself, see, it is trial and tribulation without end. Experience its boundless torment. See, it is a calamity most crushing. If you are a true slave of God, see, it is a limitless pleasure and ease. Taste its uncountable rewards. Experience its infinite happiness. So the ends with سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. It's from the Surah Al-Baqarah. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save that which you have taught us. Indeed, you are all-knowing, all-wise. And then from Surah Taha, رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. O my Rabb, my sustainer, expand for me my breast, make easy for me my affair, and loosen the knot of my tongue, that they may understand my words. And the last dua is Allahumma salli ala dati al-Muhammadiyyati al-Latifati al-Ahadiyyati Shamsi sama'i al-Asrari wa madhar al-Anwar wa markazi madar al-Jalal wa qutbi falak al-Jamal Allahumma bisirrihi ladayka wa bisayrihi ilayka amin khawfi wa aqil uthrati wa adhib huzni wa hirsi wa kun li wa khudni ilayka minni warzuqni al-fana'a anni ولا تجعلني مفتونا بنفسي محجوبا بحسي واكشف لي عن كل سر مكتوم يا حي يا قيوم يا حي يا قيوم يا حي يا قيوم وارحمنا وارحم رفقاءنا وارحم أهل الإيمان والقرآن آمين يا أرحم الراحمين ويا أكرم الأكرمين وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. So it's an art to give salat wa salam. People used to communicate through salat wa salam, asking for blessings on the Prophet in a certain way, invoking his different aspect of his ubudiyah, of his worshipfulness. So he says, "O God, grant blessings to the subtle, unitary Muhammadian essence, the sun in the skies of mysteries and the manifestation of lights, the center of the orbit of glory and the pole of the sphere of beauty. O God, by his mystery in your presence, and by his journeying to you." What was the Amin Khawfi? Okay. It here, succor my fear. It's more like keep me safe from fear, and right my stumbling, and dispel my grief and my greed, and be mine, and take me from myself to yourself. If there is still myself, I can't find him. In the last, the second signboard, he said something, the spark of perfection died, but behold the sun of beauty. Because if I am still trying to perfect myself, then I won't see the divine beauty, because I'm still in my little bubble of illusion. Separation became through union, and then life becomes pure action. There was something about death here. It's when you die that darkness became the container of light. See, there is true life in death. There is true life in death. So it's not only the death, our ultimate death when we leave this world, inshallah, but also our death, our spiritual death, the death of the fake, false ego, the death of our false claims, our false beliefs, the death of our delusions. Then when that dies, the true self is born, and the true self is the true abd, who recognizes the divine and who mirrors the divine. It's a clear mirror to the beautiful names of God. Otherwise, either we don't show those names, or we distort them, and they are not as pretty because we misappropriate them. We claim them to be ours. So take me from myself to yourself, and bestow on me annihilation from myself. That annihilation is the annihilation of the ego, the I that keeps, claiming existence independently of its maker. and do not make me captivated by my ego. Here, the soul, this author is, this translator is translating everything. Soul is ego, and veiled by my senses. When the ego, the nafs al-ammara bisu, the evil commanding soul, is in power, is in charge, then we are veiled by our senses. And reveal to me all hidden secrets. When that veil is taken away, then all hidden secrets of the beautiful names and the mysteries of the divine starts being revealed unto us. Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum. O ever living and self-subsistent one, 3 times. And grant mercy to me and to our companions, to the people of belief and the people of the Quran. Ameen. Ya Arhamar Rahimin, O most merciful of the merciful and most generous of the generous. And wa akhiru da'wahum and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. And the close of their prayer is all thanks and praise be to God, the sustainer of all worlds. Ameen, ameen. So I'll stop here. This is the end of this part. Maybe you can share with, this is 15. We've been meeting for 15 weeks over this 5 remarks. So I'm expecting some sharings, inshallah. How did it make you feel? Anything that you learned so far? Any questions as well? Bismillah.
Dr. Amina, we have a few requests of where to find the Arabic, this dua.
Where to find? If you go to the Turkey, to the same address, and you click on the left hand, top left hand, and you click on the Turkish would have the Arabic. If you want, I can also copy paste it now and share it. Sorry. Oh, it's not. Okay, it's not accepting my copy pasting. But I can give you at least the link, inshallah. Bismillah.
Something you were saying kind of jumped out at me a little bit about self-perfection, and it sounded like that's the ego task, or that stands in the way. And it made me think of like the like the self-improvement field, and what is like the Islamic perspective of self-improvement, or what does it look like through that lens?
When you say self-improvement, what do you have in mind?
Yeah, that's a good question. So maybe I should ask what the idea of self-perfection means.
Maybe let's put it this way. It's whatever this self-improvement is, the issue is not, for instance, someone is teaching you how to get rid of bad habits and establish good habits. That's not the problem. The problem is the attitude. How we relate to ourselves will reflect on how we relate to things and how we relate to a habit, for instance. So that attitude can be coming from the ego or from the heart, the soul that have surrendered to Rabbul Alameen, to the sustainer. So in one case, I'm doing things in my name. I am the creator. I am bettering myself. I am becoming a better person. The other one, I could be doing the same thing, but in the name of God. It's the same with, it doesn't have to be self-development. It could be drinking water. I'm saying water, so it's not, but I'm drinking something halal. I could be drinking something halal, like water, but in a shirky way. And shirk is the worst thing, sin that cannot be forgiven. It cannot be forgiven because by definition, it goes against the forgiveness. If I'm in a state of shirk, I'm not connected. I cannot ask for help. I'm already attributing things to myself and to the world around me. I'm in a disconnection with the source of forgiveness and the source of mercy. So just because drinking water is halal that's the first step. Good, I'm not drinking something, I'm not drinking alcohol, but how do I drink water in a way that doesn't go to asfal safilin, lowest of the low, but takes me to the most excellent of patterns, fulfills the purpose of my creation? How do I drink in the name of God? Drink God's water in his name, not in my name, not in the name of nature gave me this. And the same, I can apply it to self-development.
Yeah, thank you. That's helpful. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Feel free to raise your hand, put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself as well.
Otherwise, inshallah, we'll meet again in 2 weeks, as Zahra has announced at the beginning. Inshallah, if it is meant to be.
So, Yamina, when you were saying, reading about the annihilation of the self, of the I remember the discussion we had about peeling of the onion peels. You were saying, so until we, that will be like, I think with each action and each happening in our lives, that practice has to be like consciously done, because otherwise we start claiming things and we start taking credit of things. So like and that explanation you gave was when Naila Rabbina Lam Qalibun, that we are, with every action we are giving it back to the owner. So can you just give us some tools to help us doing that? Because when it comes to practicing, I think we all understand it, but when it comes to practice, then it becomes like difficult to implement it, because it becomes like a second nature when we're growing up to take credit of things, and it's encouraged in the society as such. So like, if you can just help us.
Inshallah, we can bring it back during the retreat. We will have plenty of time to talk about it, inshallah. For right now, we don't have enough time, but one thing is to first the Quran is the source of the guidance? How much is the Quran at the center of our life, my life? And even if it is like a short time, as long as it's there, but not sporadically from time to time when I remember, then it has to become a constant practice, like the salat. It's a aqimu salat, not sallu. Establish it so it becomes a practice. So first, the Quran, how to interact with the Quran, how to reflect on the Quran so we learn from it, and then take what we learn and practice it. Practice it again and again, day in, day out. If we look at istighfar, it says in the Quran, make istighfar day and night. Tasbih, make tasbih day and night. What is tasbih? Refute shirk all the time. La ilaha, there is no deity, nothing worth worshipping except God, means there is no provider except him. There is no controller, no one who has control except him. There is no giver of health except him. There is no giver of wealth except him. There is no giver of life or taker of given of death except him. So this needs to be practiced constantly, but not only in words, in living situations. First, from the Quran, we practice it. It's like a lab. When we are in normal, let's say, circumstances, it's like a lab. We're practicing, developing those inner spiritual muscles of iman and trust in God and surrender. And then from time to time, we are given crises, hardships. And those hardships are actually opportunities to practice what we learned. And so they are special opportunities to grow and to ground that iman, because we're not here to stay here. We're here on a journey. The more we practice this, the more we realize that reality. So that's called dhikr, remembering again and again. So we are doing the tafakkur, the tadabbur, the contemplating the Quran, reflecting, applying it, but we do it all the time. And whenever we get a conclusion, we repeat it again and again and again. So we do the shahada consciously, living it, performing it, practicing it. We do the dhikr. And as we are doing all these things, inshallah, we'll talk more about it during the retreat. It's all of these are going to go through a process of tazkiyah, of purification of the soul. If we're reflecting with the Quran and not doing the tazkiyah, the inner purification, then what we are learning will not be transformed into light, into iman. It will become information, and that information can actually feed the ego instead of being a means, an opportunity to surrender and submit to the reality. It can become darkness, actually. But as I always say, we can start by breaking the vicious cycle of being distracted by the worldly life start with one practice: gratitude, conscious gratitude. When it is conscious, then we are making ourselves familiar with being consciously grateful and thankful. And the more we become familiar with this, the more that inner talk, all kinds of things, those complaining, all of us have different illnesses of the heart, jealousy, greed, anger, whatever their names, but they don't feel good. Yet at the same time, we find ourselves addicted to those ways of being, and they are out of control. They're on autopilot. It became like a habit. Those things that we are so familiar with starts becoming less and less familiar. So we start by making the thing that is not familiar, that is unfamiliar, we make it so familiar that it becomes it becomes so familiar that what is our ghafla, our state of ghafla that is so familiar to us, will start becoming less and less familiar. And this is also, it's not only in the Quran, but also in the hadith that says, well, in the Quran, it's idfa billati hiya ahsan. And in the hadith also, like it says, how would you say it in English? Like establish a good, or do good hasana, and it will erase the bad deed. So the more we establish a good habit, it will.
So more we occupy the brain with the positive.
The brain, the heart.
It will, brain and heart. Yeah, then it will obviously displace all the shirki and those elements. And I think what you said about prayer, it's really important. And we have tried to bring in between prayer moments, like between Zohar and Asr, and it just reflect before start going into Asr, like what happened between Zohar, which you can consciously give thanks to Allah and hamd. So I think, and if you inculcate that in Surah Fatiha, then it brings you in the presence as well, and then it helps you grow in hamd and gratitude rather than focusing on all this didn't happen and this. So I think, that's a good point to start at least practicing.
Because then we will be able to catch ourselves. Like if I feel like I can't be present with gratitude, I can now I become aware what's going on. Maybe I don't know God enough to trust him. That's good too, to know that, because now it's up to me to decide whether I really want to know God or not. So it wakes us up from our taqlid, our claim to believe in God, which sometimes it's a claim that is not, it's just an empty claim. And that's why we are finding it so hard to be grateful. But in any case, in order to wake up to this and have strength enough to make a decision and follow it up, it's all by starting breaking that vicious cycle. And that starts with we can choose to be grateful right here and now. There's so many things to be grateful for, even when I am in hardship. And if I make that choice, after a while, do it for 40 days, it will change your life totally. And it will we become stronger in making decisions that are in establishing better habits in our life. For instance, putting the Quran more at the center of our life. Giving more time, even if it's a little time, but regularly, once a week, yes, but regularly, every week at the same time. If we keep, that's why habits are very important. That's why the salat is always the same time. If we keep changing the day, then it won't last long. After a few weeks, that practice will stop, because there will be always something happening. My friend is visiting me. Oh, this week I can't study the Quran. Next week, I don't know, we have something at home. Visitor is coming. When we go to work, how do we deal with the visitors and with the children and with the family and everything? How come when it comes, we make a decision about something like this, we can't pursue it? Because we see it as, it's okay, it's good if we can do it, and if we can do it, it's not a big deal. How come going to work is a big deal and I can establish it in my life with no problems? But people understand me when I say I'm going to work, but they don't understand if I say I have something else. Well, that's maybe Allah is protecting us. You will have people around you who will understand the importance of the Quran in our life. In any case, inshallah, bismillah, gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. Healing will start.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Yamina. That's really, thank you for the advice and reminders. We all need these reminders, and to each other, inshallah. Encourage each other.
Inshallah.